This week in Jamaica Now, 140 Jamaicans to receive national honors and awards this year. 4 suspected suicides reported across Jamaica in less than 24 hours have renewed concerns about the country's mental health crisis.
Forcing us to accept foreign deportees when we are struggling to look after our own people. That is not friendly.
Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding has renewed his criticism of the United States' approach to Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. And appeal court finds FSC had no basis to seize SSL. I'm Karen Madden, and this is Jamaica Now. A total of 140 Jamaicans will receive national honors and awards this year in recognition of their outstanding contributions to national development. Heading the list are Bank of Jamaica Governor Richard Biles, Energy, Transport and Telecommunications Minister Daryl Vaz, Communications Strategist and Philanthropist Donette Chin-Lloyd Chang, former Education Minister Maxine Henry Wilson, former National Security Minister Derek Smith, Stewart's Automotive Group Chairman Diana Stewart, and the Sagicor Group Jamaica President and CEO Christopher Zaka, all of whom have been appointed to the Order of Jamaica. Biles is being recognized for exceptional service in business and finance, while Vaz is being honored for his contribution to public service and representational politics. 25 people will receive the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander, including Director of Public Prosecutions Claudette Thompson, Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Ambassador Alison Stone Roof, Banker Audrey Tugwell Henry, and Professor Denzel Williams. Another 41 Jamaicans will receive the Order of Distinction in the rank of Officer. Among them, journalist and broadcaster Curlin Brown, meteorologist Evan Thompson, Professor Evan Dugan, and local government representative Richard Crary. Ska and rocksteady pioneer Stranger Cole will be honored posthumously for his contribution to Jamaican music. In addition, 33 Jamaicans will receive the Badge of Honor for Meritorious Service, 30 the Badge of Honor for Long and Faithful Service, and 4 the Badge of Honor for Gallantry. At least 12 members of the Jamaican diaspora in the United States and Canada are among this year's awardees, recognizing their contributions to nation building, healthcare, education, broadcasting, and community development. The awards will be presented during the National Honors and Awards ceremony on National Heroes Day on October 19. Water restrictions remain in effect for National Water Commission customers served by the Mona Dam as worsening drought conditions continue to impact the island's water supply. The NWC says the Mona Dam is currently 62% full, an improvement over the 39.3% recorded at the same time last year, but still significantly below the 81.8% recorded in 2024 after a wetter season. The Hermitage Dam has also declined to 47.4% capacity compared with 98% in 2024. Meanwhile, the Water Resources Authority says river flows have fallen sharply, reducing an important alternative source of water, while lower flows through the Yallas pipeline are placing further pressure on supplies to the corporate area. 4 suspected suicides reported across Jamaica in less than 24 hours earlier this week have heightened public concern and renewed scrutiny of the country's mental health challenges amid a string of similar incidents reported across the island in recent months. On Monday, Police Constable Kenroy Peters was found with a wound to his neck inside an office at the Maypen Police Station in Clarendon after colleagues reportedly forced open the door when they became concerned about his whereabouts. The policeman had reportedly been reassigned from frontline duties to the division's transport department after exhibiting signs of mental health challenges. Hours later, police in St. Catherine South responded to West Albany Place in Cumberland, where 22-year-old Brian Reed was found hanging. Later that evening, 32-year-old Ramarda Thompson was found hanging in Whitehall, Negril, Westmoreland. The fourth case was reported on Tuesday morning in Olympic Court, Kingston 11, where 34-year-old Orleans Weir, a graphic designer and the daughter of a former policeman, was found with an apparent gunshot wound. While national figures for 2025 and 2026 have not yet been released, Jamaica Constabulary Force data show that 67 people died by suicide in 2024, with men accounting for most of those deaths. The Ministry of Health and Wellness operates Jamaica's Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Helpline, which provides free and confidential support around the clock for people experiencing emotional distress or thoughts of suicide. The helpline can be reached at 888-639-5433. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding has renewed his criticism of the United States' approach to Jamaica and the wider Caribbean, arguing that Washington's recent policies are placing smaller states under increasing pressure and do not reflect the actions of a true friend. Speaking at the Team Jamaica Bicker's 64th Jamaica Independence Gala in Philadelphia last week, Golding said Jamaica's close relationship with the U.S. should not be mistaken for submission.
Imposing arbitrary tariffs on us when we are struggling to make our goods competitive in a difficult market is not friendship. Dictating to us who we must do business with is not friendship. Forcing us to accept foreign deportees when we are struggling to look after our own people, that is not friendship.
The former Prime Minister said the Caribbean's response has been measured because governments understand the region's economic vulnerability and the consequences of confronting its largest trading partner. Golding said Jamaica must continue to navigate the relationship carefully, but insisted that friendship must be based on mutual respect. He also defended Jamaica's long-standing partnerships with Cuba and China, arguing that Cuban doctors, nurses, and teachers have made invaluable contributions to the country's development. He questioned why Jamaica was being pressured to distance itself from Cuba despite that support. On China, Golding pointed to billions of US dollars in investments in roads, sugar factories, ports, and alumina facilities, noting that Chinese investments account for less than 4% of Jamaica's debt. He argued that the relationship is rooted in economic cooperation rather than political control, and questioned why Jamaica should reject investments that have delivered tangible benefits. While acknowledging that regional leaders must often exercise restraint, Golding said he will continue speaking out against policies that he believes undermine Jamaica's interests and aspirations. The Court of Appeal has ruled that the Financial Services Commission, FSC, had no proper legal basis to seize Stocks and Securities Limited, SSL, in January 2023, dismissing almost all of the regulator's appeal and upholding a 2024 Supreme Court ruling in favor of the investment firm and its court-appointed trustee, Cadion Campbell. In a judgment delivered last week, Justice Kisok Leng said the FSC failed to establish the legal foundation for its intervention, finding that its claim that SSL had made a false or misleading statement about its affairs was never supported by evidence. The dispute arose after SSL disclosed a multi-billion-dollar fraud allegedly committed by one of its employees in January 2023. Stakeholders subsequently voted to place the company into voluntary winding up and appointed Campbell as a trustee. However, the FSC moved to take control of the company, appointing Kenneth Tomlinson as temporary manager and later challenging Campbell's appointment in court, arguing that the winding up process could frustrate investigations into the fraud. The ruling means Campbell remains trustee overseeing SSL's court-supervised winding up, while the temporary management imposed by the FSC has been confirmed as invalid. Although the court overturned the original cost order against the FSC, citing legal protections for regulators acting without willful or reckless misconduct. It ordered the Commission to pay 80% of SSL and Campbell's legal costs for the appeal after losing on nearly every substantive issue. Jamaica and Ghana have strengthened diplomatic and economic ties with new agreements in health, tourism, education, defense, and investment. Following bilateral talks at Jamaica House, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness announced that Jamaica has signed an agreement to recruit health professionals from Ghana, with nurses expected to arrive soon to help bolster the local healthcare system. During his 4-day state visit, Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama declared that the global reparations movement has reached what he described as a defining moment. Mahama said the international community must move beyond simply acknowledging the horrors of slavery and colonialism and begin taking meaningful action to address their lasting social and economic consequences. He urged Africa and the Caribbean to work together to advance the cause of reparatory justice.
As we honor our shared past, we must also confront it with honesty and courage. History cannot be changed, but it can be acknowledged. And only by acknowledging historical truth can we build a future that is founded on reconciliation, justice, and mutual respect. As was recently reaffirmed at the United Nations General Assembly, the transatlantic slave trade and the racialized chattel enslavement of Africans was the gravest crime committed against humanity. The consequences of this grave crime did not end with abolition. The consequences continue even today to shape the patterns of inequality and exclusion that have persisted across our world. For this reason, we must remain steadfast in advancing the global conversation on reparatory justice. Our pursuit of reparatory justice is not motivated by resentment or hostility or a desire to revisit old wounds. It is inspired by our commitment to the truth, to accountability, to reconciliation, and to healing.
Meanwhile, President Mahama has proposed legislation to create a pathway to Ghanaian citizenship for people of African descent.
The rights of persons of African descent in the diaspora to return to the mother continent is not an act of charity or compassion. Repatriation is not an act of kindness. Repatriation is a right of all persons of African descent to return to the mother continent and settle or reside if they wish. And that is why Ghana passed the Right of Abode Act in the year 2000 and is currently considering a new homeland return bill that will codify residence and citizenship pathways for all members of the global African family. This is one of the articles of the manifesto I wish to push when I become the AU chairman, that all African nations must have a right of return for all members of the global African family.
And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notification and subscribe today. I'm Karen Madden.